Hello friends, welcome to the Handyman dev stream. We're going to get going here in a second. I just want to take a moment and remind anyone who is joining us that right now the Handyman is 33% off on itch.io for this entire month, the month of October. So if you're interested, go over there and go ahead and pick that up. And if you're here because you'd like to vote on who gets the next outfit in the game, you can just type that in the chat at any point in time, and I'll tally them up at the end. Only do it once. I'm only going to count your vote once, so just do it once, and then we'll go with whoever gets the most votes. And if there's a tie, I guess I'll be the tiebreaker. Alright, so I guess I'll just quickly show you where I left off from last time, which was I was working on the hair for the Dean. Which I did finish up. Last time I left off, I was adding bones onto the mesh there, and here you can see that her hair does have the nice physics that we like to see. So that we got finished up. I wasn't originally planning to do another update, but there's a couple of things that I want to fix that I think I would like to get dealt with and get an update for. One of them is that the audio for the new song actually is detached from our menu sliders. So the version that's currently out there, this has no effect on the new song, but so it's just always at the same volume regardless of what you have that at, which is not what we want. But there's a couple of things with the Day of the Dead as well. And one thing I would also like to add is I want to make some kind of fail-safe, some backups for your save files. So I think that's what I'm going to try and work on today as we're going here. So I'm using an asset called EasySave3, which is what does all the saving of the game data as you're going along, keeps track of all the day happenings and your unlocks and stuff. And what I'd like it to do is I'd like to create, and it does have a built-in backup system, which I'm currently not taking advantage of, so I'd like to change that. And then basically anytime there's a new version of the game released, it's going to automatically save wherever your save file is before it actually does anything with your data. And then you'll have that version as a backup until the next release. So if there's any shenanigans going on, if the game does something weird to your data or you accidentally overwrite your data, you always have the ability to go back to the previous your previous save before the new version. So that is what I think I'm going to work on right now. I just want to Google search Alright, so the way that I have the save set up right now is actually going to be pretty useful. So the data is actually spread out across multiple files. So if one aspect of your data is screwed up, you don't necessarily have to back up the entire, or you don't have to wipe out the entire data. So let's say your day 3 data got screwed up somehow and you want to restore it. You can just restore that without having to lose all your progress in the other areas as well. So that's actually going to be useful for us as we're going here. Should make your lives easier and better. So let's see, what do we want to do here? Let's go into the options menu. First, the pause menu. So I'm going to try and do most of this, all my work on one screen here. Keep things simpler, but that may or may not work. We'll see. Simpler for the sake of the stream. It's a little cluttered for the sake of actually working on it. But let's see. So when we go Options panel, and then probably what we'll do is something similar to the art style panel. So it'll be something that'll pop up additionally. So over the top of our options menu. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by duplicating our art style panel, and then just call this backup panel. And we don't need these sliders. I'm going to probably make this bigger as well. So let's see. Probably don't need to make it wider, but we'll make it taller. Something like that. And then obviously the title's going to change. Call this Save Files. And we're just going to get rid of these sliders here, and we'll leave that where it is for the moment and jump over into the editor here, the Visual Studio. Okay, and what we want to do is find our game data keeper. Okay, so here's kind of where our data is dealt with in the game, is in this script, and these are our different types of files. So now an individual, like if I bring this back up, this our data here. So some people might have all 5 of the, so I guess here's a way to deal with it is, so these two are obviously related to the characters. So we'll have that as one thing that you can back up, and then there's the option data is actually something we won't back up. The option data is just literally the stuff that you adjust in the options menu. What we're going to do is we're going to store our version information in this file, and then when we load the game in, it's going to check whatever the version that the option data says it is, and then if it doesn't match what the current version is, then we'll know to resave our backups. So this one we're not going to save. Then the player data, the day data, and the T-box data is all related to the specific days. So, and different people are going to have different files here. So, and I'm looking at this, and even here within mine, I've got, this would be day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here I only have 1, 2, 3, and 5. So look at what this player data is. So it's this. I don't deal with this stuff a whole lot, so what exactly things are doing under the hood I don't necessarily remember off the top of my head. Well, I guess for the moment it kind of doesn't matter. But right now we're just going to deal with setting up the doing the backup. So okay, so first thing we want to do is do like I said. So in this option data, we're going to add a new variable which is going to store our version number. So when you start up your version, your copy of the game with this new version, it won't have that information. So it'll therefore not match the current one. So it will automatically back it up because they don't match, and that's what we're trying to have happen. So I do have to look up how to get the version number out of Unity. Okay, so when we load this in, so if you're just joining us and you're here in particular because you want to vote on who gets the next outfit, go ahead and just type that in the chat whenever you want, and whoever gets the most votes at the end, I'll tally them up, and that person is going to get the new outfit. So go ahead and do that if you'd like. Only put in a vote once. I'm only going to count your vote once, so please don't flood the chat with the same name over and over again, but by all means go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm looking for where we load in the option data. Let's do it this way. Whoops. Try that again. Okay, so this is where when the game starts up, this is where it's loading in the option data, which we want it to always do. But if we get to this point right here, we want to save files if option data version doesn't match current version. All right, so if, and this is just, is that a string? Yes, it's a string. So whoops. Application.version equals option data dot. Why is it not coming up? Why is that not coming up? That's weird. It's weird. It didn't autocomplete for me, but it works apparently. That's weird. So if that happens, then we want to back up files. And then it'll take us down here, and then we're going to want to so let's just do a good old-fashioned debug to start with to make sure this is getting triggered properly. So right now I'm not setting the version, so it's going to always be wrong. Which is fine for right now while we're getting this set up. Alright, so just quickly going to hide this, although it really doesn't matter, but and then start the game, and then we want to see that error message pop up when we run this. See that debug statement pop up, which I think it did. No, it did not. Okay. Let's try. Let's make sure it's. Let's put a debug here. We'll just have it say the version number that the game thinks it is. To make sure that's working properly. And okay, so there it did pop up our version number, so that's working. Oh, you know what? That's because I have it 100% backwards. I'm telling it that if it matches to go and run the backup, but I want it to be if it doesn't match. There we go. That should fix that. That's why it's useful to do those debug statements, because if you don't do that, your logic may not be flowing properly, and your backup's not working, and you don't know why it's not working. So we should see the version number, and then we should see that other message saying that our backup is running. Yeah. So there's a version in there. It's telling us it's backing up the files. Okay, so that's working. And we got to actually make it do that. Get rid of this statement. Actually, what we'll do is immediately after that, but before I just pointed at my screen with my finger, like that's going to help. Before we save, so what the game does is it starts by checking to see if you actually have an option file. If it does, it loads it in. If it doesn't, it creates a new one, and then it's checking to see if the version number matches. If it doesn't, it's going to run that backup file script. Then immediately after that, it's going to save the data to the disk. So what we're going to do is, before it does that, we will jump in here and we're going to tell it what the version number is. So option data dot. Why is that not popping up? That's really weird. Well, for one thing, I gotta spell it right, but so now we're actually just gonna set it to the application version. And while I'm thinking about it, so you can see here it's still 8.2, which we will want to update in Unity here. So we're going to change this to 8.3 so that it actually works for you guys. I mean, it would still work anyway because as I said, your version is so this is not replacing the save data. It's just basically an additional it's just a backup. So all your save data is going to still be there. The difference is going to be, so if you go into your folder here, it's basically going to be twice the size that it is now, which is kind of a bummer, but I think it'll still be better in the long run. I don't think that many of you are actually digging into this stuff anyway, but basically almost everything that's in here is going to have a duplicate backup file, which then when it comes time to, if you do run into a problem, you'll be able to restore that specific save file, and you won't have to destroy all your other information or revert back with all your other information. But yeah, it's just a backup. It's not actually going to, for I hope 99.9% of people, it will make no difference whatsoever. But just a bit of a fail-safe. And so let's see here. So we're telling it to back up, and then we actually have to do the backup. So so let's see. Let's take a look here at what kind of files we need to back up. So we're just basically going to go through this. So you will definitely have the character data. Let's scroll up here and see. So we're kind of going to do, just going to copy this, bring it down here. So this is checking to see if the character char key. So there's two character related files, and we're just going to check if it exists, then we replace it, and if it doesn't exist, then we don't worry about it. So we'll check So we're checking the one if it exists, and then I've got to look over on Google here and see. It's pretty straightforward, it looks like. So yes, 3 dot create backup. And I think it's this. So this saving or backing up the files should be pretty straightforward. Actually retrieving the files is going to be a little bit trickier, but just make sure this is the right char data file. I'm pretty sure that's what we want, but let's scroll up here. Yeah, so that's, and then we want char save file is the other. So these are just going to back up your characters information, like what outfits they have and which characters are unlocked, that kind of stuff. And then what's this? Okay, so actually what I'm going to do is temporarily get rid of this here. So just so I can keep on making sure that I can keep on actually testing it, because if I leave this in here, it's going to set the version number and then save it, and then it won't actually try and back these up. So for my purposes, I'm gonna leave it blank, and then I'll be able to keep on testing it. So what we're looking to see here, I believe, let's see, it's going to create a new file with a .bak or BAK extension. So what we're expecting to see is a char data. I think it's just going to be char data.bak and then char data file.bak. It might be .es3.bak. Not 100% sure on that, but well, I guess we'll find out. Should start up, and then we're expecting to see 2 new files in our folder there. Okay, so there's one of them. Yeah, so I guess it is .es3. Well, here it's I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but the documentation said BAK, but I guess that's doesn't, like I said, doesn't matter to me. But let's see, why didn't the other one do it? So which one did we get? Chart data file. Oh, because I didn't change this. So this should be this. Chart data file and char save file. Try that one more time. And let's check our files. Yeah, so they're both there. Okay. So then, so this is going to be its own individual Then these other ones we're just going to cycle through, because these are related to the days. We'll cycle through. We'll create for loops for those. But the data related to sex scenes is its own file. So we will do basically this again, but just for the one file. And then I have to figure out what it's called. And I'll drop that. Here's a reference. Alright, we'll do that a test. So what we aren't testing yet is whether it's actually doing it properly. So I guess we'll do that. So it's saving something, but whether or not it's actually saving as we expect, we don't know yet. We'll test that out after this. Yep, so far so good on that. Let's just just for the sake of testing this, let's force a restore. So what do I want here? So I'm just gonna force these in here. So this is not how it will actually be in the game, but just for the purpose of making sure it's loading saving and loading the data properly. So let's jump back up here, and the moment we're going to get rid of the backups, and we're just going to call restore. So we're skipping over actually backing up the files, and we're just going to restore. So right now I've got these 3 backups, and it's gonna, oops, that's not what I want. I want this. This is an actual backup that I made. I'm going to get rid of these in here, and then move these into that. So the game doesn't actually see these folders here. It's only looking at this. So what we should have happen is when it gets to that, we're expecting it to look at this file and then restore our character files and then our sex data file, and for everything to be as it was. Let's take a look. Does not appear to have done that, so let's figure out why. Do I need the files to just exist? Maybe I can't restore them if the files don't exist at all. So let me take an older version of those, put them back over here. And then see if that's we won't be able to just look at that and know whether or not it worked. Let me temporarily turn off the restore so I can actually see what we're looking at. Block that out. So it's going to be just taking the what I'm looking for is I want to see what my character data is, and then let's go to the menu, the main menu. So just going to quickly look at what I have unlocked here in this specific save file. So one thing I'm pretty sure I don't have unlocked is Dana's new makeup. I just want to verify that. Yeah, so I only have 4 of them unlocked, but my save file that I backed up should have all 5 of them unlocked. And so that will tell us if it's working. So let's turn that back on, come back to Unity, and then run it, and then see if Dana's got all 5 makeups unlocked. Well, for one thing, she's wearing a different outfit, so that's a good sign. And there, yep, she's got her makeup on. So apparently, you do need the file to exist, which is fine, because if you're trying to back it up, that means it already exists, but means that I can't check it in that way that I was expecting to. But looks like it's behaving, which is great news, because a lot of times these things just don't behave the way you want them to or expect them to. Okay, so we're going to go back to actually backing things up, and what we need is to basically go through these, get those saved, go through these, get those saved, go through these, and get those saved. Should be pretty straightforward. So we're going to do a for loop here. Of what is the question? First of this. This is the player data. And we're going to basically do the same thing. So if you're not familiar with what a for loop is, a for loop basically allows you to go through a list of things or an array. So we've got an array of files here. So this save file contains this, and this, and the for loop is going to allow us to cycle through each of them individually and then run the checks just like we did on the other files, but it's going to allow us to do it a little bit cleaner than if we were to put them in individually. What do I need? So I need this. Save files .i or so we're going through each file, checking if it exists, and then if it does exist, creating a backup. But I have a key, the only thing I need is I need the key. Which unfortunately this has got so much, this is used so much. Here. Oh. That doesn't help me. I looking for somewhere else in the code that I've used that, so I can just kind of copy that code, but then I ended up just selecting the very thing I'm working on, which is not going to be very helpful. Here, I think this is it. Alright, let's give this a try. So what we should see here is we should get backups for all these player data. No, that's not what I want. This is what I want for these. So we should get backups for those. Assuming that works, then we'll move on to backups for these and then backups for those, and then that should be it for backing these up. Get rid of this restore function. I don't need that anymore. All right, so let's run this. And then check our data here. And yep, there it is. That's good. Let's go on and do the next one. So we've changed out these save files for one of the other ones. Toolbox files, sure, why not? There, and there, and then similarly, I need to find the key for those. Oh. Okay, so that's the key. So I've got to, no, try this again. I need to get this. Shoot. Trying to remember how this stuff works. So this is what I want here, I believe. So, okay, so I'm confusing myself, but so the way the toolboxes work, so you got the overarching file for that save file, and then within that, so it's plucking out the information for the specific days, which we don't need. We just want the actual file itself, not the individual day within the file. So what do I want? Yeah. Look online, remember how these save files work. So I want this key exists function. Do I need to do it for each individual day? I guess I can. So we'll do a for loop within here. Shit. Problem is I don't know how many days there are generically. So I mean, currently there are 8 days, but that's going to change obviously, and I don't want to have to remember to always change this. So how do I want to deal with this? same issue with these. Just for the moment, let's ignore the toolbox because I don't want to get too stuck in a rut. So obviously we want to deal with that, but of all the things, the toolbox is probably the least important thing. But let me skip it for the moment, just because I don't want to get too stuck in it. So this one is about the like day events. But I might run into the same problem here as well of that I did with the toolbox. Let me take a look and find out. Yeah, I think I am. Because you have the individual save files, and then within them the data for the days. So I guess I do need to figure this out anyway. I guess for the moment, just so we don't get too bogged down in it, I'm just going to set this to 10. And we'll just change this to day. For the sake of simplicity. And I will come back and figure that out on my own later, how I want to deal with that. I mean, it doesn't exist in the current context. Oh, because it doesn't exist in the current context. And then change this to key. So this should work, it's just clunky. And it won't work as is past day 10. So that's not ideal. But like I said, I'll come back and fix that on my own time. So let's see here. So I believe this should work, and we should have backup files for our toolbox and for hello Pappy Pie. If you would like to vote on who gets the next outfits, you can go ahead and punch that into the chat there. Right now you'd be the only one who's voting, but by all means do that. What we're expecting to see here when we start up is for these to all have backups and for these all to have backups as well. Not the option data. That one's not getting backed up. And then that should complete our backups. let's check it. It did not do it. Okay, why did it not do it? Let's take it one at a time. Okay. I don't see anything out of the ordinary here. Why didn't it do it? So we were expecting it to create backups for these 4 files, as well as these files here. So rather than, let me see. Let me see if there's a better. Okay, yeah, this is a better way to do it. Because I don't care about the keys. So the key here is actually looking for something within the file, which works, but I'd actually be better off. Yeah, let's change all these to. There's a much simpler way to check this. So get rid of the keys. Let's get rid of all these. And then get rid of all these keys. All right, Snuggle Stab. So who you're looking at? So your vote is for Oki then, Snuggle Stab. I think that's a fine choice, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Let's see if this works. Oops, I didn't unpause. Or I didn't stop it, so it's still running. Let's start this back up. And check our files. Alright, yeah, so we do have our... am I thinking of giving Grant some outfits? I definitely could. The only thing I would then have to do is I'd have to include a way for you to change his outfits. I guess my opinion is if people want Grant to have different outfits, then I can definitely do that. It's not something I've put a ton of thought into, but if that's what people want, I will do that. Like I said, the only thing I would have to figure out is if, or how I would make that. Do I include Grant in the menu? I definitely can. I would probably just put them at the end of the rotation. Oh, so here's... So, let's see here. This looks funky. So, what I'm noticing is that my something screwy here with my characters settings here or something, because the what happened screen and the character selection actually didn't pop up, which means there was some sort of hiccup which probably is a result of what I'm working on, the backups. Yeah, those things should have popped up, but they did not. So we can get rid of this key here. That doesn't matter. And then change this. Get rid of this key here. So there's some sort of issue where it's didn't load in properly. For right now, what I'm going to worry about is this, that it should add these data files when it saves the other backups on startup here. Which it did. So as I said before, this is going to clutter this up a little bit, but I don't think most people even bother looking at that anyway. So, but I think it's saving everything at this point. I have to figure out why it is screwing up the load screen there, or the main menu. Why that's not popping up? Because it did load in my save file days properly. It looked like, because these are all open. So that it did. This is still saved, but something got screwed up. So let's try. Yeah, I was also thinking about Araceli as well, because she does only have, primarily has the cosplay outfits. Let's see. Let me go back to my. So I think it's these two files are what's contains the information that is not getting loaded properly. So I'm going to overwrite them here. I'm temporarily disabling the backup of it, so it should behave like normal here. At least that's what I'm hoping, expecting. Yeah, so she has, this pops up properly. She has on a different outfit. Alright, so let's see, let's turn the backup back on. And see what happens. See if it screws up that character data again. Alright, so it did load properly. Let's try just getting rid of all these backup files all together. And then loading again. See if there's any funny business. Everything seems to be working. I think it might have had to do with how I was checking for keys rather than checking for files, but I'm not entirely sure. But that seems to be working. So then, what we need, the next thing we would need to do is tackle the actual menu. So that you could, so right now it's saving backups, but there's no way to actually revert to your old file. Here it is. Alright, so we just barely started. So the only kind of tricky thing, so the character files, so these two files we can load in together. So we can just create a button for those. So, and we'll have to make some fail safes, because once you load in, if you decide to restore your file, you're going to lose any progress. So we'll have to put in some warnings and that kind of thing. But for the moment, we can just kind of get it functional. But so we want to create a button that's going to restore basically both of those simultaneously, because those go together. And then option data, we're not backing up at all. That's what we're checking against. Now theoretically, these guys go together, but what I'm noticing is that there's there may not necessarily be all three of them. So like you can see here with the player data, I have a player data 4, but I don't have a toolbox 4 or a day data 4. So I don't know off the top of my head exactly why that would be, but do I have, let's see, save that and back out. Let me run it. I'm not entirely sure if that's because at some point I had a 4th save file here on this save and then I never used it. So probably what happened is, I don't know if I maybe started the day and then I didn't finish it. So because the toolbox information for sure gets saved at the end of the day. But so I have to kind of account for that possibility of there being, because theoretically what I'm looking to set up here is that there's a restore character information button, restore sex scene information button, and then a button to restore save files. So when you hit so there would be a button for day 1, day 2, day 3, and if you have, if for every day, every save file that you've got, there's a button for that, and when it loads that specific save file, it's going to look for this file, and for that file. If they exist, it'll load them, and if not, it won't, I guess. Oops, that's what I want. I want this. So for sure, what we want is this is our panel for save files. So for sure we're going to want a button for character information. Let me turn off the post-processing so it doesn't get the bloom in there and make it hard to read. Character data. We'll worry about getting those lined up properly in a minute. So those ones are going to exist no matter what. Oops. The whole button, not just the text. Now the other ones could be variable. Is that all I need? Look at these again. Character data. Don't need the option data. Yeah, so I guess for simplicity's sake, I'm going to include 5 buttons. And if you have those files, it'll work, and if you don't, it won't. We can get rid of this set button. And I'll worry about making this prettier later on. So this one's 2. And we need to change what they say. We need one more button. This one down, change this to 5. Alright, so then the other thing we need is like another button to be able to close that window. UI button. Go like somewhere over here in the corner. And we'll get rid of this sprite. What are you freaking out about? There we go, and then we just gotta shape it. You're talking about Grant? You want to be able to change Grant's name? Pappy Pie? It's a possibility. I don't know if I will do that, but I will keep that in mind. So this button here is just, if you haven't guessed, to close the window. So you can actually get out of this screen. And we'll probably, I guess, well, maybe I was thinking I would center these buttons, but maybe what I'll do is put a little text next to it. I don't know if I need to, because I feel like they're fairly self-explanatory. When I was thinking about this earlier, I was thinking of having kind of more detail, so you knew what you were doing. But I don't know if I need it, to be honest. But for right now, I'm just going to leave them nice and ugly over on the side with random spacing. And we'll get this button set to close this panel. Oops. So we want to set active false. So when we click the button, it's going to find this panel and then set it to not be active. Alright, so by default we want the panel to not be active, so we can actually see our options menu here. And then we're going to need to put a spot here where we can open the panel. Where is, okay, here, so here's my stuff. So I need to extend this. So I'm planning on just having an additional category here for probably doesn't need to be that big. Is that big enough? Oops. Let's go with that. So we'll call this backup panel. So if I didn't call it backup panel, I just called it back panel. Maybe we should call it restore, because I think that's more clear what we're talking about. So there's only going to be one thing in this category, but that's fine. So let's drag this down. Get rid of most of this crap. What did I just do? So we're just gonna add a button. we're going to change this to say restore saves. We need to extend that so it fits. Like that. Actually, let's do it this way. And then, so right now this section is, oops, taller than we need it to be. So let's shrink it down and then replace it. Okay, so basically we just want to add a button here that will open up our panel. And if I have an existing button, I'll just copy and paste that, which I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, we'll just copy our art style button, which is under the graphics panel. Just copy that wholesale, drag it into our new area. What is this? Slide this back up. What is that? Camera sensitivity. Alright, so we got our button, but it's way up here. Let's drag that down. So we probably don't need the text. We don't need this. And we're just going to slide the whole button over. I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it so it's the same as these other ones, even though it's going to be redundant. Yeah, let's do this. I mean, I guess I could have skipped the panel altogether and then just put the buttons down here. I get the reason I didn't do that to start with. So the restore save files are just going to work so that every time you start up every time you start up the game, it's going to check the game's version against what your save files say the version is. So when it changes, so right now your save files actually don't say anything at all, but starting with the next update, it will have it will store what the save file or what the game version is that your save files say it is, and then it's going to check it against whatever the actual version is. And when there's a new version, the game is going to, at that point, save all your files, and then so you will have a backup to whatever the previous version was. So whatever your save files are, when you get the new version of the game, it will save them, and then if you run into some sort of hiccup or headache or accidentally overwrite your own files, you can reload them. that's the idea anyway. So what we already did today is we set up so it's capable of creating the backups. And what we're doing now is making a window so that you can choose to restore them as you need to. So we want to basically do the same thing, only switch what we're doing it to. So right now the button's going to open up the art style panel, but we want it to open up the backup panel. Game object, set active bool to true. And that should work. Let's save this. Actually, let's bring this up to the top where it should be. And then save it. And then run this, and we should be able to open and close our screen. So options, we've got our new thing down here, and we can open and close it. Alright, so I think that's gonna do us for today. So I think based on what we've got in the chat here, I think we're going with a new outfit for Oki with some thought for both Sonam and Araceli in the back of our mind, but we'll go with Oki, and some consideration for Grant as well. For those of you who are watching this in the future, you can leave a comment in the chat and let me know if you also are interested in more clothing options for Grant. But for right now, I think that's going to do it. Thanks everybody for tuning in and chatting away and keeping me company while we worked on this. See you guys.